Welcome to the channel, guys. Today we have my father, Jay Francis, on the call on the podcast, JSFrancis Legacy Studios podcast. And today we're going to talk about financials and his upbringing on it and his origin story, as we like to say. So take it away, Dad.
I don't know if to say good morning or good evening, but anyway,
Whichever works for you, right? Whenever
right?
someone's listening.
Let's say
So,
good morning. Good
yeah, good
morning.
morning, everyone, because that's where we are right now. It's morning on
Right,
our
right.
end.
Early
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
morning. Yeah. So yeah. So hello, everyone. Thank you, son, for having me on. Talking about finances. Um, yes. Well, let me start with just saying that it's it's been a joy for me throughout the years to deal with finances. Um, in my field, accounting. So to start off, I'm of course a tax accountant. Been one for over almost 40, a little over 40 years. Um, I'm also an insurance broker, which deals with also some types of financing. Uh, how see sometimes when I speak with especially the young people in my church, one of the things that I always hear about is the fact that, well, how did I ever get into this, or why did I get into this? So actually, it started years and years and years ago. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I, yes, I went to school and everything, and the old adage is that get a good education, and you can make good money, go to college, get your degree, and all that nice stuff. Well, it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
We find even with our own children that they usually want to find their own path. And I've
Hmm.
learned the hard way, as they would say, that yeah, that might have been a path to go down, but that wasn't my path. So yeah, I went through, the basic schools and stuff, and got to high school. And by the time I got to the 11th grade, I realized this is not for me. So
Mm.
I decided that I'm going a different path. So thank God, my mother and my father, they somewhat understood. They didn't like it, but they somewhat understood. You're 16, 17 years old, and you have a mind of your own. So I dropped out,
Mm.
and I started working in the airport.
Okay.
And while I was at the airport, I met another gentleman, an older gentleman. Unfortunately, I don't. It's many years ago. I don't remember his name, but he was driving these interconnecting buses around the JFK airport, and I worked as a baggage handler on that bus. So we was going around. I got to know him. He got to know me. And one day he looked at me and said, "Now I've been there for maybe a year or two." And he looked at me and said, you've been here since you was about 17, going on 18. Here you are 19, uh, almost going on 20, and you're doing this. This is what you want to do the rest of your life?" And I
Mm.
said, "Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure." He says, "Well," he pointed to this old man who's carrying the bags on the airport. You know, these they call them sky caps.
Yeah.
And this guy, when he asked me, "What do you think? How old do you think he is?" And this man looked old. I mean, he was bent over carrying these bags. And I said, "Well, he looks like he's about 80 years old." And he says, "No, he's only about 65."
Oh,
And I
wow.
said, "What? He looks older than that." He said, "Because the years he's been carrying those bags, he just became, he looks older. I
Yeah.
said, "Well, I don't want to look like that, but I'm 65." He says, "Well, then you got to stop carrying these bags on this bus. You got to find another way to go." So I said, "Well, I don't know." He said, and he said something to me that I say to most young people till this day.
Hmm.
He said, "What do you like to do?"
Yeah.
That was a question that really stumped me. I said, "Well, I like music. Always loved music. Used to play the guitar, And he says, "Well, what else do you like?" I
Hmm.
said, "Well, actually, I like playing with numbers. I like, putting numbers on sheets and doing this." And back in those days, the computers wasn't as popular, but when you're using these computers was DOS, the
Yep.
software that we was you got into was Lotus 123.
Oh, yeah, I
And
remember that.
that was like an Excel spreadsheet
Yeah.
today. So I
Yeah.
loved it. And I said, I love playing around with it. He says, well, what you need to do is find something you love to do,
Mm-hmm.
find out how you can make money at it,
Mm-hmm.
and then just do it.
Right.
I said, wow, that sounds easy. He said, it
Yeah.
is easy. First of all, if you find something you love to do, it'll never be a job
Mm-hmm.
because you want to do it. That's what something you, if you love it, it's not a job. But
Right.
you, of course, you want to get paid at it. So,
Yeah.
and, so you got to figure that out. So I said, that sounds like something I'm going to look into. And then when I started doing that, starting to look into, what could I do with playing with numbers. That in those days, I didn't think about being an accountant or anything, but I just love playing with numbers.
Right.
But my mother said to me, when I told her that, she said, well, now you dropped out of school. You're going to need some school if you're going to talk about playing with numbers and stuff. And she says, my mother was so nice. She said, whatever you do, I don't care if it's sweeping the floors, sweeping the streets, whatever it is, hauling garbage, as long as you enjoy it,
Right.
then you won't ever have a job. You'll always be happy at what you do.
Mm.
And growing up, I've seen people who've taken jobs just because they had to eat or just because they had a family and all these things. And they was miserable. They
Yeah.
stayed on those jobs and it was miserable. So I decided that I'm going to go back to school. But I was again blessed because I found a program for young people that you could go to school 1 week and work 1 week.
Okay.
And a lot of banks was doing that. So I don't know if anybody on this line might know of Anchor Banker. There was a little lyrics that went with that Anchor Banker thing, but there was a bank called Anchor, so they
Mm-hmm.
call them Anchor Bankers, and I got involved, and I started doing banking during the 1 week, and going to work on the second week, and the work I got was working with an accounting firm. And only thing I had to do was punch these numbers into a spreadsheet, that's learning. Doing that, I found out how much I love accounting.
Yeah.
I decided to go back to school at night, and there's another part of the story where I actually got married young and had two kids, and you know things didn't work out. So I was kept the children, but my
Yeah.
mother again helped me with it. So my mother helped me raise my two kids, a boy and a girl, and I was so proud of them and so loving of them that I knew I had to do more than just fiddle around. So yes, I went back to school.
Yeah.
So the interesting part was that, and I have this story is a story that I have four children, and most of them know about it, and they have, especially all my boys, have mimicked what I have done. I mean, when I say I decided to go back to the airport and started working a security job to make some money, but then I was going to school at night to finish my degree in accounting.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I'll be doing two jobs at the airport and working. So unfortunately, my children didn't see me as much, but they knew I was there.
Yeah.
And the interesting part is that I did this and never ever thought about how tired I was,
Mm-hmm.
but I did it. And
Yeah.
and by God's help and God's grace, I was able to make it through. And like I said, I taught a lot of these traits to my children because technically that's how I saw my dad. My dad, he would leave 6 o'clock in the morning, come back at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and
Mm-hmm.
I barely saw him because that those days I was in school. So
Yeah.
I learned a lot from that, and I realized that I love accounting. I loved it so much that when after I got my bachelor's degree at night school at Queens College, went to uh, it was another scholar, John. It's called John. Forgot now, but it's a university. So I took 2 years and got my associates. Another 2 years at this other college, and got my degree, my bachelor's degree, all in accounting and finances.
Mm-hmm.
And later on in my life, I decided to go and get my master's, and I got my master's in business association with accounting being the major. So, but I did all of that because that one elderly man at the airport told me, find something I enjoy doing. And once I found something I enjoy doing, I ran with it. I
Yeah.
ran with it. And till this day, I find that I do. That's one thing that sustained me.
Yeah.
All the jobs I've had, other jobs that I've, whether it be security work, I did some work. I mean, I worked in banking for over 20 years. Built myself, went from a basic teller all the way to a manager of one of the branches over at American Savings Bank. And I tell you, it was a chore. It was a trip that I took. But the good thing was I enjoyed working with numbers, and
Right.
because of that, I never felt it to be a job.
Hmm.
Uh, One thing I tell young people, sometimes you'll find your niche, and now you're in it, and you're doing it. But you know what? It's not what you do
Hmm.
that might frustrate you. It's the people you're working with that's going to frustrate you.
That's facts.
So it seems like all that time in banking, there was quite a few people that frustrated me, and I had to take a
Right.
different route. But I
Yeah.
always stayed true to what I love, and that was always accounting. So to this day, even though I'm retired, I'm still doing accounting. I got
Yeah.
companies that call me. I got people who need their taxes done as a tax accountant. So I still dabble in that. I
Yeah. You
think
still do my taxes.
every year trying to
Yeah.
get that refund, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
But the one thing, and saying something about that, I've learned a lot in. Like I said, I've been a tax accountant for over 40 so what years. And I let and I educate the individuals who I do taxes, whether it be my children or whether it be outsiders, and I let them know that if I give them certain advice,
Hmm.
because one thing I don't like, and I don't think anybody, is to pay after paying taxes all year round, that you have to pay more taxes at the end of the year.
Right.
But we've learned one thing in life. There's a couple of things that are certain. We know death is certain. It's going to come whether we want it to come or not,
Yeah.
sooner or later.
Hmm.
But paying taxes, that's certain.
Yeah.
You're going to pay taxes whether you like it or not, unless, but
Right.
even the ones who's self-employed,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. That's true. That is true.
that's the history of where I'm at, and that's where I'm at today, and it
Right.
sustains me,
Yeah.
So
Like,
yeah,
like you said, you enjoy doing it for so long and you are retired, but yet you still do it. You don't take a break from it.
no,
You have people still coming to you trying to do help them with their taxes and stuff like that, and even back taxes you help them with,
oh
and you
yeah.
and you keep afloat to the different technologies because you started out with DOS, which is where I kind of grew up. No one knows my origin story. My dad, which is on the podcast with us. There is, he's right there. Say hi. But he's the one that kind of got me into the computers as far as I was learning off of him on DOS. And then I remember Lotus and everything like that. So that technology from where it was to where it's now, like how how much of a growth did you have to do? Did you have to do a lot of studying on your own? Was it trial and error? Because technology keeps changing.
Well, that is so true. It was a lot of it was trial and error, and
Hmm.
but I'll be honest with the audience. Listen, my son just said how he started. My son was about 6 years old, 6 or 7 years, six,
It
no,
was
what,
it was
five or
five.
six,
It was five, yeah.
five.
Hmm.
I had him at my office. I had my own business brokerage in Jamaica on Jamaica Queens on Jamaica Avenue. So
Hmm.
I put this young man in front of a computer, and I taught him how to type in, because in DOS you had to type in your commands,
Yep.
and this command wasn't short; it was a long command. You had to
No.
type that in to get to your games.
Right.
So I showed that to him maybe once or twice, but I printed it out and put it on top of the computer so he could type it in. And then one day I went in there and he's playing this game. I said, how do you get in there? He said, I just type what you put up there, Dad. And I said, you did? So from that day forward, I knew this boy was headed to greatness
Yeah.
in computers. So later on, I found it to be true because he
Hmm.
is. And because of him and my other son, the two of them has taught me a lot in computers. I love his statement. he said he does hardware, not software. So
Yeah.
the software side of it, I learned through trial and error, and companies I went to work with and taking classes. So I took classes in QuickBooks and a couple other softwares and stuff. And because again, if you're doing accounting and bookkeeping, QuickBooks was the software of the day for
Right.
most small companies to use. So I learned it, and I learned it well
Right.
enough that people was calling me, companies were calling me saying, we understand you know this software. Can you help us out? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's how I got into that. But yeah, the technology has grown.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Today, at the present time, my sons really, really help me. I brag about them all the time. I say, yes, because of them, I'm using three screens and sometimes three screens plus two laptops, and I still don't know what I'm doing. So
Don't worry, folks. I'm trying to get them to down to one computer, but it's not working. Leave in the comments. Tell them to just go to
right,
one, please.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
But
Oh
it's fun.
gosh.
It's fun. I enjoy
Yeah.
it. I enjoy
Yeah.
it.
That's
Keeps the
what's up.
brain going.
Some time in the accounting firm and doing your thing. What is the major financial challenge you faced and that you overcame while in the industry?
Well, interestingly enough, is wasn't one thing is one of my biggest challenges is keeping up, especially in today's world, um, keeping up with the change in the tax laws.
Mm,
Um, they're not forthcoming. There are
yeah.
classes that I take or try to take.
Hmm.
Uh, there's always a time issue. You know, you only have so many hours in a day and so many days in a week.
Yeah.
So things move too fast. But pretty much I try to stay on top of things. There was a time I was able to do all the way to do corporate taxes and stuff. But now I keep myself down to either personal, that means individuals,
Yeah.
or small companies, small organizations. Um, and I stay in that bracket. That's where my most of my expertise is. So that's how that was my biggest challenge. But that was also now my I was able to accomplish that. So now I'm very confident in what I do because I keep it to what I know instead
Hmm.
of trying to go. So when somebody calls me and say they have one of those C corporation, a big corporation with about 2,000 employees, and they need help, I really don't jump on it as fast. I might get some help from. I know a couple of CPAs that might, give me a hand on putting together the biggest part of it.
Hmm.
But I keep to what I know, and
Yeah.
like I said, it's small. So that's how I got through it. And I
Practical financial tips that our listeners and viewers can apply today. What do you think they are?
well, there's that, and that's a very good one. And the thing is with that, what I again, when I try to talk to the young people in our church and
Hmm.
young people in general, is that start young, meaning that if you could land yourself a job that you enjoy doing, of course, and you start working, start saving.
Hmm.
There's many avenues. A lot of it's changed. Back in the day, back in the 1970s and even the 1980s, they one of the things that we always was always encouraged is to have the what do you call it, divine? It's called defined benefit coverage on your job.
Mm.
Now, a defined benefit coverage that jobs will give you is like it's like a 401k
Okay.
that most people are used to, but it's a fine benefit. They pay the companies put money in for your retirement.
Hmm.
You could go in, you could match it, you could go in, put money if you want to, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
These companies, and these was mostly government jobs, where they would put money aside based on your income. So if your income is 50,000, a percentage of that goes in this retirement fund for you. And the good thing about it, you don't have to fund it.
Yeah.
Okay, after so many years, usually 5 to 10, some most of the 5 to 10 years, you're fully vested. And what happens is once you retire, you're getting all that money, not tax free, of course, but you're getting all the money. Because that right now, when you get into that, this what we call tax deferred. That means they're taking this money out of your money, your gross before taxes. So when you do touch it, then you're gonna pay on it. But that was the good one that they had back then. Now most of these companies have 401ks where now you put in a certain amount and they match it.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the other way around. If you don't join up on it, then you go to lose out because you're not putting aside. But whatever you do, whether you're a contractor, whether you're self-employed, which is also like a contractor, but it's a difference. Um, Whichever one it is, always have them have wherever you work take money out for some type of retirement. So if they have a retirement fund set up like a 401k or 403b,
Mm-hmm.
you put the money, you do whatever they ask you to do. Like so, if you put it in 2%, 3%, they'll match it.
Right.
Okay, and that's one of the first things that anybody, not just young people, should do. But of course, if you're in your 20s and you start that and you stay that with that same company, which most people don't, but stay with that same
Yeah.
company for at least 20 years, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to have a little nest egg, pretty good nest egg to match up with your Social Security when you do retire.
Right.
The other thing is that, especially when it comes to taxes, I tell people all the time, if you're gonna make sure they take out enough taxes uh, on your income, so that way you don't have any liability at the end of the year where you had to pay now the difference of what you should have paid. So
Mm-hmm.
technically, I use the rule of thumb of 10%. So if you're making next to 50,000 and you try to put at least 10% of that, have them pull at least 10%, every paycheck into a retirement fund or into put it aside, so that way not in retirement, that 10% is put aside on your taxes. They pay that to the federal government, so that way at the end of the year you don't get hit with any taxes that you should have paid. And so that's another thing. Now if most young people, I tell them, if neither one of those things are available to you, then
Mm-hmm.
the other best thing is that if you're still working and let's say the company don't have a retirement fund,
Mm-hmm.
and they're taking out the maximum amount on your taxes, don't don't get discouraged, or you can say disappointed, but try to put something aside, whether it's $5, whether it's $100, but you want to put something aside in a savings that you're not going to touch.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
now we all know we could put money in our savings, and emergency pops up. I lose a tooth and I got to get that fixed, and that's
Right.
going to cost me $1,000. So some people
Yeah.
have more money in their mouth than they have in their pockets. So,
That's facts.
I know myself because all the
Yeah.
things I had my dentist had to do. But
Right.
you got to discipline yourself, which is the hardest thing I've learned throughout the years, that people really are not disciplined. That's why if you haven't taken out of your pay
Mhm.
automatically, then you're good.
Yeah.
So what I've learned is that, just like I said, a lot of us, most of us are not disciplined enough to, when we get paid, to take $5 and put it aside, or
Right.
ten
Yeah.
thousand put it aside.
Hmm.
So your next best bet is to have your company do it.
Yeah.
What I used to do every time I got paid, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Especially today, in today's days. Back in
Yeah.
my day, we got checks.
Right.
Direct deposit wasn't even thought of. You
Yeah.
got a check.
Yeah. I don't even. It's been years since I got a check and then had to go to the bank and deposit it. Now, if I do get a check, which I don't anymore, obviously, but if I do get a check, I just mobile deposit.
Right, right, right.
It's
Yeah,
just
again,
crazy. Yeah. I don't even go to the
bank,
bank. The bank's on my
bank.
phone.
Yeah, that's right. That's why a lot of banks are disappearing because
Yeah.
they don't need the branches anymore. You
Right.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
But
true.
yeah, so since we have this feature of what they call direct deposit,
Hmm.
very easily you tell your company, listen, you're going to direct deposit my check,
Yeah.
right? So my check is $1,000. So every week you're going to deposit $1,000. But do me a favor, deposit into my account
Hmm.
$900.
Right.
The other 100, put it into this account.
Yeah.
So now if they do that automatically, As far as you're concerned, you're getting $900 a week. Forget
Right.
about the $100. That's going
Yeah.
into another account.
Right.
And if you do that,
Mm-hmm.
believe me, I've done it. And all of a sudden, at the end of the year, I'm looking at it and saying, where this $2,000, $3,000 came from?
Right. Right.
Not
Exactly.
realizing that's what you have set up with your company.
Right.
If that's a possibility, I say jump on it. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're in your early 20s, late 20s, or even early 30s, that is the way to go, because the older we get,
Mm-hmm.
the less time we have to save money.
That's
So
facts. Yeah.
all the way up to 50, even
Mm-hmm.
at 50, you just had to up it a little bit. Because by the time you get to 50, prayerfully, you're doing 80, $90,000 a year. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you have to budget yourself to make sure that you take off the top the amount you need to take. Now,
Yeah.
of course, us who are um, know that God is in control and God has all the, you know, sayings and stuff. We always do our ties, so that
Mm-hmm.
10% always comes off the top.
Yeah.
But other than that, always remember, if you have the opportunity for them to directly deposit that funds into another account, you could
Mm-hmm.
easily just live off the difference. A lot of people feel that, oh man, uh, I get $1,000 a week. I need every last penny of it. Well, if you say that, that will be true.
Yeah.
You know what your mind thinks. That's
Mm-hmm.
what the mind. That's what you're gonna
Yeah. That was come out.
believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you have to be disciplined and manage your mind to say, I could live on less.
Right.
That might mean tighten up the belt. That might mean less dinners out. That might
Yeah.
mean not buying what you like all of a sudden.
Right. Right.
Certain
Yeah.
things will let us have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get into that, and listen, we all been there.
Yeah.
I see something when I was younger. I love records. I would
Yeah.
go and buy that record, lickety split. You
Right.
couldn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I wasn't that much of a clothes person,
Yeah.
buying clothes and shoes and all that. But there are certain things I love to buy. And
Yeah.
I would buy it whether I had the money or not. How credit. That's where the credit comes in. Oh, let's put it on credit.
Yeah.
So so the advice on all of that's number one, have the company puts aside the money for you.
Mm-hmm.
Put that in the savings. Number two, if you don't have the credit card, don't get the credit card.
Right.
You might
Yeah.
want to have one. It's
Mm-hmm.
always good to have at least one credit card and use it very sparingly.
Yeah.
Don't use it like every. Oh, I like that ice cream. I'm going to buy it with this credit card.
At least
you
pay
know,
it back right away.
right?
But yeah. All right, guys. Well, have a great one. Thanks, Dad, for joining, and talk to you soon.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to JSFrancis Legacy Studios. If you enjoyed today's conversations, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment and share. We'll catch you on the next episode. We're going to be doing this twice a month, so don't forget to tune in. All right? Stay blessed.